The Radicals are on track for the RA Cup. This is race 2 for the weekend. They raced into the night under lights last night here at Sydney Motorsport Park. A great field of Radicals assembled here, being led around by the Shannons Motorsport Australia Championships Hyundai i30, which we hope we don't see during this race. We have seen it at numerous times today. Here is the grid. Chris Perini on pole position. Right next to him, Peter Patton. Sean Hedgewood, the big names in Radical Australia Cup, right across the front row.
To finish on the podium in positions 3 and 4. Warwick Morrison, Susan Esselmont, Craig McClatchy, Max Medland, Peter Clare and Bill Medland.
Christopher Gurkov rounding it off there with Greg Kenny. Cars are set to go. This will be a rolling start. There's the 81 there of Chris Perini.
We should be the number 1. What I'm interested to see is whether or not Peter Patton's there. Just before I came down, there was some issue with the car.
Peter was out in the prototype race and speared off. It didn't look like he hit anything, but right there, in fact, on turn 5. Back on turn 5. That's turn 12, but they're coming around now for the race start. So Peter hasn't taken his spot on the grid. What the interesting thing is, Craig McClatchy in 7th, a rookie, and he's already in mid-pack at the start of the race.
That's going to be interesting to watch unfold, but Chris Perini, without Peter Patton alongside, he is the man who's been in hot form at Sydney Motorsport Park over the course of the last couple of years. The last 3 races on the trot now, 4 races rather, Chris Perini has won here for the RAC. So it's going to be a top run at the front of the field. I expect Perini's going to get away, but the big focus will be on who in the field is going to be able to latch onto his tail. Keep a close eye on Stephen Champion in that new XX, brand new car, just starting to become comfortable with it. He was pretty quick yesterday, suffered a bit of an issue and had a spin, had to work his way back through the field. Caught up to Peter Clare. Peter Clare's probably wider than John Bowe used to be. Oh, that's the man I'm talking about. Peter Clare's been tagged and turned sideways. So he's got a bit of work to do, the man from Volante Rosso. Bill Medland, or Max Medland rather, in Bill Medland's car behind. Kosta Bahurikov is actually running without the auto shift. He's having to manually clutch every gear change. Which
He's doing well. He's gone from the back row.
Oh, backwards. That was a very close run through. Wow. Just coming through. In fact, that car's gone through to the barriers. That's Warwick Morris. No, that's the Volante Rosso entry. That is the number 62 McClatchy. Entry of McClatchy. So you're just talking him up, and unfortunately, he is out.
Rookie error there too, walking off with the communication cord still attached. He'll get boinged right back to it.
He will. It's
Kurikov has had a massive start to this race. He went down the left-hand side, ran the pit wall through all the dirty stuff, and we have got a safety car taking part already. Unfortunately, Sean, we know what happens with an early safety car.
Mixes up the result. Safety cars breed safety cars.
Yeah.
This is the sort of thing that Peter Patton used to live for, but right now, unfortunately, for the 3-time champion, he's sitting down there in pit lane with the GWR Australia team and just watching on. You'd be disappointed not to be in the field. So interesting to see what's gone on there. He's obviously tagged the wall because the rear wing is bent, but he looked to be avoiding a car that was spinning, and the car that was spinning was Greg Kenny, who has started rear of field, and he started rear of field because he copped a penalty yesterday, accidentally tagged a car down at turn 1, about lap 2, I think he was telling me earlier. So that put him back down the order for the start after a chat with the stewards. But for Chris Perini, no such trouble. Let's take a look at the replay. Down at 2. Yeah, it's Warwick Morris, it looks like, into the side of Peter Clare. It's a fairly regular occurrence here in the Radicals at Sydney Motorsport Park.
A bit of understeer on cold tyres at turn 1.
Oh, he did tag him too, and that's where the wing damage came from. That was unfortunate for the guys in the Radicals. And Craig McClatchy looks like he's all right, but he'd be pretty frustrated with that on his debut in the RA Cup.
What a shame. He's driven very well yesterday in the under lights here at Sydney Motorsport Park, so he did a tremendous job and started this race in 7th and has gone out at turn 4 on the opening lap. We will duck down to pit lane with Molly Taylor and Luke King.
Good afternoon. Luke King, you were really frustrated when I was speaking to you yesterday, but P5 in race 3, so obviously things are picking up.
Yeah, definitely. I think the secret last night was we went out to the Outback Steakhouse. I think I had chicken wings, I had steak and cheese dip, had a couple of drinks and a good steak. So went out with Bridie and had a bit of a chat, had a good feed, and that must have been the secret to today. Nothing to do with the team at all.
I thought earlier in the week you were complaining about all that extra ballast from the balance of power, and you've just seemed to add it a bit more in.
Yeah, well, maybe it balanced it out a bit, you know. Like, I think we kind of needed that. So, I mean, the car felt good today, and obviously the boys did work really hard on it overnight. It was a bit of a pity that final race was like safety car central, because I think that we had a really good car and it was going to last the distance on tyres. So, yeah, I think we would have got them off in the Renault, and if there was a bit of a scuffle up front there, I was kind of like eyeing off a podium, getting all excited. But, yeah, safety car dulled that out pretty quick.
So obviously now you've got a big debrief ahead. From the team's perspective now, we can see everyone packing up. It's a fair rig that gets taken to each event. What's the process? What do you have a debrief with the team now, tomorrow, and then how do you reset and what do you do from here?
Well, usually all the teams will have a race to see who can pack up first. I'm not sure who's leading at the moment. It might be the Manifs over here because they've got a smaller truck to pack. But yeah, we'll probably do a debrief on Tuesday once the boys get home from Sydney. They've got to go all the way back to Melbourne. So yeah, I'll just get on the phone with Chris, and if we can get a chance to jump on the sim the next time I'm down in Melbourne, we'll do that. So we've got an 8-week break now, and to be honest, I'm really looking forward to that. In past seasons, I would have only just started our racing in April. So to have already done 4 events and be over halfway through the season, it's been hectic.
So what's the training plan from here? Do you have another big dinner planned for tonight?
Yeah, I reckon a couple of Heinekens and watch the Formula One tonight is going to be my go. So I think I've got all my family, mum and dad are here, and like a lot of sponsors. This is our home event, so probably go to the Cricketers Arms up the road and have a bit of a schooner up there and just relax and bask in a bit of not glory, but just like the relief that the weekend's over and we've got a clean car. And I think we're back to P2 in the championship as well. So stoked.
Yeah, great to get some more points on the board. And physically doing these races, they're not particularly long, not particularly short though. It's been reasonably warm here today. Physically, do you find you're fatigued after a weekend? Do you have to do anything in terms of recovery?
Not too much. Because of the shorter races, it kind of saves us a little bit, but they are very aggressive cars to drive. So the amount of grip that we have in the Michelin tyre is a lot more than what I've ever driven. For me, I like a bit of shoulder pain after a weekend, so a bit of an ice bath.
Did you do that just to flex your muscles on TV?
I'll give you a bit of a Popeye flex there if you want. But yeah, no, I'll just have a cold shower tonight and just try and chill. It's more of a mental thing. I usually can't go to bed until 2 o'clock in the morning after a race weekend, so you probably know what that's like. Yeah,
it's definitely I find the night after the race, I still wake up the Monday at 3 a.m. still buzzing, ready to go.
Yeah, still thinking of stuff. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I usually have to watch the entire weekend once I'm home, so the F1 will be a good distraction, and then I'll just try and get to bed at some stage because otherwise I'll be stuffed for the rest of the week.
Awesome. Well, hope you have a good recovery, a nice feed. Enjoy the F1, and we'll see you next time.
Will do. Thanks very much. We'll see you in 8 weeks. Thanks for watching.
Back to you guys.
Thanks very much, Molly, as we've got the RA Cup cars on track there, the number 56. Continuing on there, Greg Kenny got involved in a little bit of a melee early on. Safety car still on track. This is the Shannon's Motorsport Australia Hyundai i30 leading the field around. And that is not the sight we wanted to see from the number 62, the Craig McClatchy car. That left-hand wheel doesn't belong 1.5 metres inboard of that wheel arch, does it?
Not good. That's going to be frustrating for him, certainly having his debut in the RA Cup, not the way he wanted to make that happen.
And doing it so well. Like, until that point, his first race last night did a terrific job.
That highlights another of the features of the Cup, is that you can come through State Series off-track days. You can do lots of track days with the RA team and RA Motorsport, GWR, Volante Rosso. Those guys all run regular track days. Get comfortable with the track day, go to the New South Wales Supersport Series, their single-day events, short races, get comfortable with the car, which people like Craig McClatchy have done. He's certainly done a lot of testing with various teams over the last couple of years, and then you come into a championship like this, which is the top end of radical competition in Australia, and he's competitive. And that's the beautiful thing. You don't have to come in green. But we have seen that with guys like Jim Hernandez, unfortunately committed elsewhere this weekend. He's not in the field, but he just came straight in green. He did all his due diligence on multiple categories, how much he'd have to spend, value for money, bang for buck, as we call it. And he looked at Radical and he went, this thing really is fantastic. And he was fantastic at Bathurst. He ended up finding 30 seconds over the course of the weekend around Mount Panorama. So, okay, he was a little bit off the mark to start with, but in the end, he got up to a pace where he was just comfortable and was enjoying himself, and on one of the best circuits in the entire world. So the racing with the Cup has always been very, very good. The thing we need to work on now is just boosting the numbers of competitors. There's something like 85 SR3s in Australia. So there's plenty of cars around. It's just getting those cars back on track. And that's something that's a bit of a push for Carl Reindler and Kate Harrington and the team as we go through this year and into 2022.
I tell you what, it's one of the few handfuls of categories that gets an invite back every year to Mount Panorama. It's one of those things that we don't often get an opportunity when the gates are thrown open at Mount Panorama. They're always the big categories, but they've always got support categories, and the Radicals are always part of that. So it's great, and also being part of this national championship, the Shannons Motorsport Australia Championship, has been going for many, many years now. It's a stalwart of Australian motorsport, and the RA Cup going right back, I think 12 years ago, when Peter Opie burst onto the scene and had a ripping opening season, Sean, with these guys damaged on the
Greg Kenny car. Yeah, that was from that incident, unfortunately, with Craig McClatchy. But he was sideways at that stage. That's why Craig, well, no, the other way around, tagged him. Either or, doesn't matter. He's out. It's a bit more of a condensed field now, unfortunately. But up front, Chris Perini continues the domination he's had here at Sydney Motorsport Park that stretches back to 2019. Green flag, we're on to restart. Perini leads Zig Furmeister. Stephen Champion's one who could take the fight to his GWR teammate Chris Perini. Kostoper Hurikov, who's manual shifting this time because they are blip shifting, they're paddle shifting. All these cars are paddle shift, the current spec cars. Susie Esselmont, now that's a great story, with support from Tim Macro, the Victorian. John Grant was at Bathurst. Susie wasn't well for Bathurst. John's not well this weekend. I saw him down the pits. He was using sign language because he lost his voice. And Susie's doing a great job, but she said, geez, it was hard work. The physical effort she has to put in as Champion tries to go down the inside, and he's done it too. He's caught Zig and he's got through. What can he do about Chris Perini?
Zig Furmeister just giving him enough room there, running with the number 27. And have a look at now, Kostoper Hurikov has absolutely charged through this field. We're only 4 laps in, admittedly. 2 of them have been under safety car. He started off the back in this grid, and he is this far up. You've said it twice, Sean, he's manually shifting.
He said yesterday, as the race wore on, he said, I was actually having a great time.
Yeah.
You're double shifting and you're heel and towing. He said, it's old school. He said, at the end, I loved it. I just couldn't get enough of it. But he said, it took me a while to get up to speed, and I spun once, and it was just a nuisance. And that's why I finished down the order. But once he got his head around it and focused on what he was doing, look at how quick he is now. We're used to seeing Costa battling for the podium, and certainly with somebody like Peter Padden out of the field, this is a great opportunity for him to actually shine as Warwick Morris pulls alongside Susie Esselmont into one of the fastest corners in Australian motorsport. Turn 1 here at Sydney Motorsport Park, takes the position away, moves up to P4. The recovering Peter Clare, thankfully, with that safety car now onto Susie's tail and looking to try and make a move through.
We've got a couple of generations of the SR3 as, on the inside goes the 47 again. That's Peter Clare sending a very clear signal to Susie Esselmont, but she's having none of it. She's defending her part of the track, doing a tremendous job. As I was going to say, we've got a couple of different generations of the SR3 running here, and there has been some adjustments to the rules that an SR8 can run, and we saw Neil Muston, who was very successful when SR8s were a regular part of the championship at Mount Panorama. This weekend, it's all the 1500cc SR3s, albeit a couple of different generations in the mix here. And we've got SR3s, RX, SRs, and now double X. So all very, very closely matched together. As we've got Molly Taylor with Ben Barglana.
Ben Bargwanna, I found you down here helping to push Aaron Cameron's car onto the trailer. So you're very hands-on. You're on the tools as well down here.
Oh yeah, a little bit. The first year at TCR I was on the tools for GRM, so I know what it's like, and these boys do a lot. So I just help them out when I can. And yeah, packing up's a hard job, so I just help where I can.
Can't say, wait, where's your dad? Is he on the tools helping out as well, or has he already gone back?
He might have left already, I'm not really sure.
And I heard you guys drove the truck up together. Are you guys heading back to Melbourne the same way?
No, he's just driving it back by himself. I'm on the flight, you know, the easy driver stuff. Yeah, I just jump on the flight, go home, but yeah, no, a bit different.
Business class ticket, of course, I assume?
Yeah, of course.
But yesterday, I mean, massive moment for you with the tyre failure at high speed. I did notice when I was watching the replay on the grass, you were spinning around and the front wheels were still spinning and you were still on the gas, and I thought that was really cool. What was going through your mind?
Oh yeah, we also had that contact and I was just sideways going into turn 2 and it was really fast, so I was just like, I'll get back on the power and try and get it out of here, but I wasn't on the power enough and it stalled, so it was unfortunate, but yeah, that's just how it goes.
Love it. And what a comeback this morning as well, coming from rear of the grid all the way up to 9th, I think. How was that?
Oh, that was awesome. I mean, overnight the GRM boys did an awesome job. They threw the kitchen sink and the laundry sink at it, and the result was positive. So yeah, that race was really fun.
Were you on the tools then as well on that turnaround last night?
Yeah, a little bit, but it was more the team than me.
Awesome. Well, loving your work. You must be happy with this season, you know, all in all. How are you performing so far?
Yeah, no, it's going really good. My first season in TCR, I'm loving it. It's a lot of fun, and I'm learning each round. So just looking forward to taking that more and further. When we go to Morgan Park, we'll just take what we've learned here and, build on it. So it's good.
Well, you've been great to watch, and we love watching you take it to your dad as well, so can't wait to see you for the next one.
Yeah, I actually finally beat him the first time this weekend, but yeah, no, it's good.
Well, more of that to come then. Good one. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Molly. Yeah, great to see next generation of Australian race drivers striving for success. Success fills our screens. The number 81, Chris Perini, has been massively successful since joining the Radical Australia Cup, going back a number of seasons ago. Sean, he loves the winning ways, doesn't he? He's had Peter Padden to fight it out with. No Peter Padden today. It's a lovely, fast Sunday afternoon.
Our ace photographer, Keith McGuinness, got a shot of him walking out of the sunset yesterday after his win. Or actually, before he was getting in the car. And it looked very much like Hollywood. And his partner was saying she was going to come up with some sort of catchy tune about what a man he was to put onto social media. So, of course, Chris shies away from that sort of thing. But certainly he's been a bit of a Hollywood recently. But he's taking the positive approach. He's doing the job properly. He's focused. He's learning what he can each time he gets in the car. As here's a great story. Bill Medland in the RSX that RA Motorsports have had in their factory for a couple of years, and his nephew Max Medland driving the car that usually Bill would drive behind him. We saw Max debut here at Sydney Motorsport Park a couple of years back, and he did a good job. He doesn't do a full season and was on the podium from memory here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Memory's not always what it used to be, but certainly taking the fight in his uncle's car to Bill Medland. They are back down in positions number 8 and 9 at the moment. Would have expected to see both of them probably a little bit further forward. Bill's a very busy orthodontist, so often has to juggle time on the phone with getting in and out of the car. But in comes Max Medland, which tends to highlight to me that the pit window may well be open. Yes, in fact it is. It should have been open after the 15-minute mark. We're at 16:44. As this great battle between Kosta Pahurikov and Stephen Champion goes on. Costa very, very busy. He's going to get a full workout today, Tilton Racing entry, because we saw Brad Shields, who was co-leading the championship with Peter Padden coming into this round. He is focused this weekend on TCR, but additionally, the other issue the team had was they had to send an engine back overseas to have it updated to full SR3 Cup spec, and that just delayed having 2 cars on the track as Max Medland comes in for his compulsory stop. Looks like Greg Kenny, oh no, of course, Greg pitted with that issue after the contact with Craig McClatchy.
It's a complex livery, this one, isn't it? Certainly stands out in the afternoon sun.
It's a bit like Chris and Bill Medlin. They're complex individuals. So certainly they have been a great part of this category.
As his nature.
Absolutely. They've been a great part of this category. Peter Clare taking it another element. Now, who's gone off there in the gravel? That looks like it might have been Zig, as Peter Clare makes a last-minute dash down pit lane. That was certainly a last-second decision. Could well have been Chris Papadopoulos screaming on the radio to pit, 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 or box, 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 as Chris Perini, the race leader, comes into pit lane. He was out by 6.8 seconds over Zig Furmeister, who's continued to circulate. Stephen Champion also coming down pit lane. So these guys getting their stops out of the way. Usually, of course, we're all looking to Peter Patton to see when the right time to pit is. Peter Patton's not here, so they have to make up their own minds. Clearly, Chris Perini's decided to come in early in that window.
Here's something very interesting. The heat generated inside the wheel with the brakes there. We're just seeing the smoke pouring out of that right-hand guard there. So if you're wondering if they're really giving it to these cars, well, there's a very clear indication. Some very, very hot brake pad material there, giving off the smoke as the resins hit the disc and burn off. It's part of the pad material.
Now the guys are just bleeding air out of the tyres just to optimise the performance of the Hancock radio.
Like commanding an opera or something.
No, he's probably waving at a cameraman or something like that.
Gesticulating.
Yeah, absolutely. That's more important. In fact, there's photographs you'll see on social media, the RA Cup Australia Facebook page, of Perini coming over the hump at turn 3 with his eyes closed. Right. So the next photograph that Keith McGuinness managed to get at him, he was looking up at the sky, at the moon or something like that in his race yesterday. So certainly adds a different element.
Pretty spectacular place to be with the lights on.
Yep.
It really is, and I could see how the drivers might be distracted by what they might think is the moon is actually a big LED light up in the sky.
They all talked about it this morning, about how much they loved racing around Sydney Motorsport Park under lights. So we hope to see a bit more of that over the course of the next couple of seasons.
We'll go quickly down to pit lane whilst this pit window opportunity is going on to Molly Taylor.
I've managed to find the man of the hour, Josh Buchan. You know what, you win a couple of races, suddenly it goes to your head, you start to get all the people around you to carry all your stuff. You know, what's going on?
I just want to share the excitement with everyone. Is that so hard to do?
Well, you are, yeah, definitely great to watch. Congratulations. Massive weekend. This would have been your biggest weekend in motorsport of your career so far?
Yeah, by a long shot. It was good. You know, one of those weekends you wake up on the Friday and you don't really put a foot wrong. Obviously, in practice one, we didn't do a lap, so we were behind the 8 ball a little bit. But, everyone bound together, just got the car fixed out there for practice 2, and, yeah, the rest is history.
How many media interviews have you done in the last 24 hours? More than you've ever done before?
Yeah, I've done all of them. So every interview that happened here, I was a part of. Even Caruso's victory speech I tried to sneak in. I just thought they wanted it.
So that last race, I mean, I had money on you to win, so you owe me, but we'll put that to the side. But what were your thoughts when you realised Caruso was coming up on your inside?
Oh, I saw him. I saw him hit it like a bullet, and I thought, oh my God, that expletive. He's going to get me here. So hey, fair play to him. That was a cracker move. I said to him, you know, I love that sort of stuff. He saw a gap, went for it, and he won the race. You know, we don't decide when the checkered flag drops sometimes. So he won that race, and fair play to him.
It was awesome to watch all weekend. So what's now? You're here having a debrief with the team. Will that happen tonight, tomorrow? What's the plan?
Absolutely not. I'm cooked. I'm going home. I'm going to bed. There's going to be no crazy celebration. My legs hurt. My back hurts. Yeah, just I'll probably soak this in over the next few days and just realise what we've actually done. So.
And more of the same next race? Have you got more things up your sleeve, a bit of a plan? What do you think?
Yeah, we've got about 40, 50 kilos up our sleeve, I think, for the next round. So that's not going to be kind to us. Morgan Park's a track that should suit our car, but yeah, we'll be a bit heavier there. I'll stack on the kegs between rounds in my passenger side, and we'll just see where we end up.
And why will Morgan Park suit your cars, and how much experience do you have with that track?
I raced Formula 3 there a couple of years ago. The car should suit there just because it's tight and twisty, and these things, the more corners you have, the better they are. They're obviously not the strongest car down the straight, but they make up for it around the bends, as you can see here. So, yeah, look, we'll have a bit of weight, but the car should still be strong. I don't expect to come out and, you know, Drip excellence again. You don't ever expect that, but yeah, I think we should be good.
Group excellence, I like it. Now, I'm holding this hat. In all seriousness, can you just show us the little setup you did have on your head before I arrived? There we go. What a look. Now, I was trying to find Nathan Morecambe while we're here, but he's just run off again, so I'll keep searching, boys, but until then, back to you.
Thanks very much. Congratulations to Josh for his success today. And I could hear the violins as he said he was having sore shoulders and sore hips and things. That's the life of a race car driver. You've set off on, Josh. Enjoy it. The pain and the gain. This Radical Australia Cup race continues on. Susie Esselmont's in the pit lane. Basically, Sean, we've had everyone come through the lane whilst that chit-chat was going on there. And Stephen Champion has just exited as well and goes back out on track.
The big race now is going to be between Stephen Champion and the brand new 2021 XX. He took delivery of just a couple of weeks ago, done a couple of test days. Obviously, last night's race, he's done a little bit of prototype stuff as well. Just to get that car up to speed, he's becoming more comfortable with it. Ergonomically, a little bit different to his existing RS that he'd run for quite a few seasons. Won back-to-back New South Wales Super Sports Series in that car. But he's got the new car, it's the new weapon. No different really in engine. The structure of the car is the same, as Garth Walden told me when I spoke to him the other day on the phone. 15 years these cars have hardly changed. There is updates with the data, there's updates with electronics, ergonomics, paddle shift steering wheels, different feel. That was something Peter Padden said to me after testing the other day, is it feels different because it feels different. The steering wheel feels different. Now here's a move. Costa's gone very wide down at 2, a little bit sideways on the exit. That's opened the door for Chris Perini. Now he's charging. He was up to 5 seconds or so behind Costa. He's got that down to having made a passing move. He's now something like, what's that mathematically, about 5.5 seconds behind Stephen Champion or thereabouts. The gap to the lead, where if I look to the second to last column, it is 5.58 seconds. So Chris Perini's got it all going. He's circulating, well, his best lap's a 130.4. Stephen Champion, by contrast, a 131.5. So certainly faster, but Champion also knows that if he can just focus on what he's doing, it's one thing to catch someone, it's completely another thing to get around them. That said, Chris Perini's pretty good at that.
We go back to the early part of the race here where there was a bit of a touch-up there. The number 62 into the 47, so McClatchy into Peter Clare there, and this was around at turn 4, and certainly took that car out there, the number 62, and when we saw it come back down the pit lane on the back of the tilt train, the left front wheel was right back up underneath the cockpit area. He gets out and climbs over the wall in safety. There goes Perini now on Esselmont.
P2, he's now 3.8 seconds back. Well, he's lost a little bit of time getting around Susie, not too much, but he's now up to position 2. It's eyes forward. He needs to focus with 19 minutes and 15 seconds to go in this race. Chris Perini may well catch Stephen Champion. Whether or not he's got anything left to fight him with, we'll soon see. We'll also see where the variances in the cars will allow Stephen Champion perhaps to just stretch an advantage over Chris Perini.
So our race leader at the moment is Stephen Champion. Chris Perini in hot pursuit as we go to Jess Dane.
Thanks, guys. I have come down to the Porsche end of pit lane to see what's going on. We've got pack-up happening down this end as well. And I have stumbled across two very familiar names to the paddock, Dean Canto and Steve Owen. Gents, tell us what you're doing here this weekend.
I've been brought in to look after a couple of drivers in the Pro-Am category in the Porsche Cup. So Marcel Zalua and Sergio Perez. He's not the F1 driver, Sergio Perez. But, just bringing our experience, helping the guys through, trying to improve their driving a little bit. Obviously, you can see a lot of the track here from the sky, from up on the roof. So on the headsets and just talking them through the race. And, also it's a little bit more relaxed than main game categories. But, still a lot of fun, still very serious. And, the guys I was looking after had a successful weekend.
Excellent. And Steve?
Yeah, same as Dino. I'm coaching young Madeline Stewart, who I've been coaching out of Norwell a little bit. And now I've just started coming to the races and, trying to hopefully impart some of the knowledge and some of the mistakes that we've made over the last 20 years to stop her from making the same mistakes. So she's doing really well, progressing every weekend. Pace is very good. Just trying to refine the little things and get her further up the grid, but we've had a good weekend.
Now Tell us about this category. It's a great ground for both bringing up junior talent, but also for people to just get out and have a bit of fun. So from a Pro-Am perspective and up-and-coming drivers who want to be professional, how good is it a playing field?
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously the cars are all one make, so you've got that variable out of the way. So everyone's in the same equipment. You've got some teams here that have obviously been in the sport for a long time, but you know, Warren Love's here, Alex Davidson, myself and Steve. There'd be over 100 Bathursts between us all, so lots of experience coming in, helping the younger drivers. It is a good platform for them to hop into and show their skills, because obviously everyone does pay attention to this category now. It is quite strong for that. But we also have the Pro-Am category for the gentleman drivers who are a little bit more relaxed, but still like the challenge of driving the Porsche. They are still quite challenging to drive, and you know, they can see where they are up against the pros.
And tell us about the coaching side, Steve. What does it entail?
I'm on the radio to Maddie, so you know, talking her through the race, just getting the really good go-karters, which she was, up to speed in a race car as quick as possible. So at the end of the session, we go through data, we look at onboard, we look at sector times, just looking at where we can improve. Green tyre runs, race strategy, all those sorts of things that, you know, it's easy for us. We've been doing it for 20 years, but not so easy when you're just coming straight out of go-kart. So it just helps sharpen up the learning process a little bit. So, you know, and you can see the results. As soon as you come to a test day, they go quicker than they've ever been before. So, you know, luckily they keep calling us up to come back.
And we touched upon it, the cars in the Porsche category are all the same. So where do we find those gains?
There's set-up things you can change. They are all the same, so it's a fantastic measuring stick. You know exactly where you're at in this category because all the cars are the same. So there's some things you can change: driving style, tyre pressures, roll bars, right, all the usual things. But at the end of the day, you know that your car and the car next to you on the grid has essentially the same potential, and most of it comes down to the driver.
Thank you very much, gents. I'll let you get back. I believe you had a beer in hand, so I won't interrupt very important activities. Thank you both.
No worries, thanks, Jess.
Cheers.
Thanks very much, guys. Great to see Steve Owen at the racetrack. 21 Bathurst 1000s he's had, and I still think of him as young Steve Owen. It's good to see both Dean Canto and Steve here working with the next generation coming through. There has been plenty going on in this Radical Australia Cup race whilst we were down there chit-chatting in the paddock area. Here is two drivers really fighting it out, both getting off. You'd have to suggest Sean, the 53 of Susie Esmond, got caught up in that oil down, and Costa Kurikov, a little bit of inexperience just following the line off.
Yeah, that's the trick, isn't it? Don't follow the car in front of you. You look through the other car. Well, you can say that now. Hindsight's a fantastic thing. The other thing that's happened, of course, that we've missed completely is Chris Perini's now leading this race by, well, he's now 2.7 seconds up. He caught Steve Champion by about 1.5 seconds about 3 laps ago, got past him, has now extended that lead. Fastest man on track, a 1:30.2. Still well clear of the existing lap record for the SR3 around this particular variant of the circuit. There's the man on screen. He's going to extend his advantage here. He's becoming the king of Sydney Motorsport Park. James Winslow, the fastest race lap in an SR3 around this circuit of a 1:28.2. set in July 2016. So that's been standing for a while. The other interesting thing Peter Padden said to me the other day, Daz, was that with the reseal of turns 2 and 3, he felt that the cars could be like 0.4 a second a lap faster with the grip they were generating with the new car. So he was keen to see how things going. The other interesting thing is with the XX, it has live onboard dash telemetry of tyre pressure and tyre temperature. And he's a huge student of data. So he was overjoyed. He said, in fact, Sean, yeah, it's cool. It might be the latest thing, and that's all fine. I just wanted the data because I love the data. I love going home and going through it. I just want to sit down and go through the data. Here's the family battle. It's on between the nephew and the uncle. The nephew's got the advantage at the moment, Max Medland, in the car that Bill often runs. Bill stepped up to the newer RSX. It's the SR3 RS in that multicoloured patchwork livery that the Medlands have been running, both Chris and Bill, in recent years. Bill's race ready. He's been doing a lot of mileage in these cars, but Max has been out of the seat for probably upwards of 18 months. Has been on the podium here before at Sydney Motorsport Park. So he's a good young talent, just needs extra miles in the car. So we look forward to seeing a little bit more of Max over the course of the season.
Certainly a good point to make there, Sean, with these two. He's getting laps in the car, and 2020 was cruel to many, many race drivers. It's not a sport that you can just go down to the local golf club and whack a ball or get a friend and go and play some tennis or hit a tennis ball up against the wall. You've got to have a racetrack. It's got to be manned by safety staff. And all of those different things, and that adds up to very large amounts of money each time you do it. Then you get in the car and you've got to have the crew member and tyres and clutches and all of those sorts of things. So they rely heavily on test days, which do cost, and then getting actually to the race meeting and getting race laps done, because it is a cruel sport in that aspect, is that you really cannot practice it except for at race weekends or very expensive test days out at racetracks. And the Radical Australia Cup for many, many years, or the Radical Australia organisation based here at Sydney Motorsport Park, have run lots and lots of days, and they get the calendar every year and sit down with the ARDC and say, right, we want more than a handful of days here. We want a lot of days so we can bring our customers and our race drivers up to speed. Here's our race leader, the number 81, Chris Perini, doing a terrific effort. He's stuck with the same livery from the previous car, and why wouldn't you? That's
It's still his same car.
Oh, it is the same car.
Yeah, he's been running the RSX, actually. Oh, that's a good question.
Yes.
Oh, now I'm running with my grey matter. Yours might be better than mine in this instance. There's Stephen Champion. That is the brand new XX.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Perini debuted at Bathurst. I think it was the start of 18. And that fantastic debut race where he was pushing Peter Padden, who was the master of Bathurst. He's now a 9-time Bathurst winner. Talking about Peter Padden, not Peter Brock, although both are 9-time Bathurst winners. Pushed him in the first race, his debut race in the Cup on Mount Panorama. We thought, wow, where did this kid come from? He's played tennis with the best tennis players in the world. He's been a superbike rider. He's looking at Susie Esselmont. Now she's awake. She was a bit worried about whether she'd be physically ready for this race because it took so much out of her in yesterday's race, where she's finished, pretty sure it's P5. And she was battling right at the front of this. Unfortunately, that spin just set her backwards, and now an off
6
on the edge of P6. So Chris Perini was quite good. The second race, he got carried away. He got caught up in lap traffic at Bathurst. He's second in the race in the championship. Got flustered, got a bit aggressive behind the wheel and threw himself into the wall and skyline. Unfortunately, that sort of burst his bubble a little bit. He learnt from that, but it took him another year or so to actually get to the stage where he could regularly appear on the top step of the podium, or regularly appear on the podium rather. It wasn't until the 2019 season he finally wrapped it up at Highlands Motorsport Park in New Zealand, where he was able to actually go on and take his maiden championship in what was a fantastic battle with Peter Padden that went all the way down to the wire. In fact, Mitch Nielsen at that stage was also in mathematical chance of winning the championship. No Mitch Nielsen this year, and Peter Padden unfortunately sitting this one out. So this could be the big advantage that Chris Perini may well be able to carry through to his second championship.
A couple of absolute stalwarts missing so far this season. Sean Rowan Ross sadly missed Rowan. It was a magnificent liveried car in the Rothmans type of look, and of course the two Haggertys haven't started this year. Kim Burke really hasn't come back after winning the championship. He did 1 or 2 races the year after. But that's it. Obviously, a little bit of Nico Rosberg. Win the championship, lose motivation to do it again.
Well, no, he promised himself that if he won the championship, he'd give it up. So I think he's just standing by that promise. I believe he's investing more time in family, which is understandable, because it takes a lot of commitment, certainly, to not just run a championship at this level, but also to win a championship at this level. You're testing, you're updating things all the time, you're learning, you're going through data. And Kim wasn't a young man, not like us. He was a little bit older, so it took a lot more effort because he's a busy man. He's got family, he's got all the commitments of being a mature age driver. So he had to balance all those things. He focused on winning the championship. He did that. He succeeded. Okay, fair enough. Walk away. We need new blood into the sport. Talking about it earlier, that's what we will do to try and get this championship going, is bring new people into the sport, because these cars are fantastic. I mean, they're similar to an open wheeler in many respects, performance-wise. They circulate Bathurst within half a dozen seconds of a V8 supercar. That's just amazing, and you can come into this and learn at your pace. You don't have to come in and suddenly qualify for the Bathurst 1000 and get within 130%. You can learn these two-seater cars. They've got multiple pedals in some of them, driver training, the whole thing. It's a fantastic category.
One of the things with the Radical, Sean, that going back a number of years ago, talking to Kim Burke, was the fact that this is truly an international format. You can go to North America, you can go to various destinations in Europe and run a Radical Championship, and they are these cars. There's no localisation. They are actually these cars. They come out of the UK, they're delivered all around the world and run in championships. Just wanted to touch on something that is different with the XX that we can point out to everybody. On the rear wings, on the end plates, you can see with these cars, they're straight up and down. The end plates are straight up and down. There's venting in the top edge to exhaust dirty air off the side of the wing. But on the XX, you'll see that the rear wings turn in a little bit on the end plates. That's the physical thing that we can see. So Sean touched on before, they haven't changed a lot. Subtle changes of aero. The original car had like a bubble in front of the driver. It now has more of like a formula shape on it with a raised nose. So we're getting more of that air under the car. Starting to get a bit of the wind tunnel work that the Radical people do with these cars. So there's subtle changes, but when you're watching on at home and you're going, oh, I can't see the difference between the RS and the RX and the XX, well, the difference between the latest generation cars is the easiest way is that you see the end plates on the rear wings, they're turned in a little bit. That's the most obvious physical thing.
As Garth Walton was saying, in 15 years of this car, there's been very little change. A lot of it's electronic because there's updates in electronics. The data, obviously data acquisition, the aero, as you rightly point out, but the engines really haven't changed. They went from a short stroke during the RSX model to a long stroke engine, which gave it just a little bit more power in various positions. And we're looking at Peter Clare dive down the inside again of Susie Esselmont. They're avoiding that oil, so we need to see no dual spin like we saw with Kosta Pahurikov a number of laps ago. I'm pretty sure we were watching during one of those interviews that we were having that Peter Clare was battling further up the field. I wonder whether he's had an issue somewhere whilst he's not been on camera that we haven't picked up, and that's dropped him back down the order, because I was pretty certain he was ahead of Susie. So this is the battle for position number 5, and she's really holding her own. For somebody who hasn't done a lot of miles in these cars, Peter Clare's been right across the New South Wales Supersport Series, was right in contention for the championship last year, and he's fighting again for a second year with Stephen Champion. He's been doing a lot of cup competition. We saw him earlier. He's capable of being on the podium, as he was yesterday. The Volante Rosso driver doing a good job. He's another one who's been collared for a RS XX for future rounds. So these guys are pretty keen and they're pressing on. So he'll be very keen to try and get his way past Susie with 5.5 minutes to go in this second race of round 2 of the 2021 R8 Cup.
Really does need to get on it, because Sig Vermeister is a further 13 seconds up the road, and you'd have to suggest with only just over 5 minutes left that is something that's not going to happen. But certainly pressing on with Susie Esselmont will give him a result.
This is the battle for seconds. Sorry to interrupt you. That's fantastic. Now, how is this one going to play out? Because you've got a very, very busy Kosta Pahurikov doing all the manual work, blipping, heel and towing, manual shifting because of an issue with the car. They just couldn't replace and change across the course of the weekend. Some of the cars with the electronic differences, and this is a highlight issue between some of the models, is it's just not an unplug and plug back in. There have been changes to the system so that the data doesn't register and the ECU doesn't make things work. Costa's certainly looking racy. Steve Champion's locked to right front as he's gone in to the hairpin, and that's opened the door again. Costa is very, very racy. This is the brand new car for Steve Champion. He's getting used to it. Costa knows his car very, very well, and he'll be keen to try and make a position change here. This is the battle for second in this race.
You can see on the number 34 those rear wing end plates. As it comes around and goes in the straight, they're turned in slightly. That's the real giveaway. So they're subtle, but they've been developed to a point that they make an effect. There's a reason that they're doing that, trying to keep the air off the back of the car, trying to correct it and clean it up. It's like there's something loose underneath the number 34 there, with only 4 minutes left to go. So you'd have to say the best part of 3 laps. Chris Perini has a very handy 20.20 seconds lead.
Well, that was very close. He just got sorry to cut you off there. Just as you looked away, Stephen Champion got onto the dirty part of the circuit, got it sideways, and that opened the door for Costa. And Costa's a fairly forceful driver. He didn't need a second invitation. Forced his way through. He's moved up to P2. Well, I was going to say, one of the additional things they're talking about with the new XX as we look at that passing move on the exit.
What about the wheel slap there?
Yeah.
Face to face.
Thanks very much. That's my corner. I mean, let's be fair. Steve Champion's hanging on through the corner. Yeah. He may not have known that Costa got alongside him. One of the things Steve Champion was saying about this new car is they're very, very good on brakes. He said, I can be one of the last of the late breakers. So that gives me a little bit of confidence. Go back to Peter Paddon. He had some dramas yesterday. We're used to seeing him running at the front of the field. He had a throttle position sensor that at full throttle was telling the ECU that it was at 0 throttle. So he had to reset the system whilst he was circulating yesterday 3 times. So he said he'd catch someone storming through. He said he was heading towards the front again, and the thing could shut down and suddenly you'd be nowhere on the
That'd
throttle.
grab your attention,
He said,
wouldn't it?
oh yeah, he said the throttle trace was just incredible. It was peaks and troughs. But anyway, no
then
such
flat
drama at this stage. Yeah, plenty of flat ones. No such drama for Chris Perini as he heads towards what will be his 5th consecutive victory now here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Really good to see this. He is operating like a race driver, filled with confidence. And when you're a race driver filled with confidence, you win races. You're trusting of the car, you're trusting of what you're doing, you're trusting of what the crew is doing in the background for you, and you're tipping it in, particularly of these effects car, these aero effect cars. I mean, just seeing that front splitter bobbing on the as it rides the bumps here at Sydney Motorsport Park. And this is one of the smoother tracks around, and these cars so low slung to the ground really do give you that bobbling effect. Like we see with the Porsches, the 911s, with all their weight over the back, they tend to bobble a bit, and these cars will really focus on it as well. G's driving well, just driving out to the edge of that painted ripple strip and driving off the back of it there, just every millimetre that he can use to gain some speed.
Oh.
And another one off there, that's Bill Medlin.
Yep, very wide on the run onto the main straight. Well, going back to the point you were talking about earlier, Chris Perini has become a very, very good solid driver, but if we go back to his debut that weekend, I think the point he was making when he, in the first race, pushed Peter Patton all the way to the line, and we thought this kid is going to be the next big sensation. The next race, he's in the wall at Skyline because he pushed just that little bit too hard. It took him 12 months to become comfortable in the car again. As you just see what's happened there with Bill Medlin up the top.
Oh, that's not nice.
That really just snapped suddenly
Yeah,
as
that'll
he was
tear
gathering
a
it up.
tyre. That'll tear a tyre off going off the back of that ripple strip there too.
Needs to be careful. Now, Susie Esselmont still holding Peter Clare at bay. She will be absolutely wrecked. They'll have to drag her out of the car after this one. There's not much of her.
What, drag her out with a massive smile on her face?
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
poor
sure.
thing.
Yeah, she won't walk probably for 3 or 4 days. Certainly looks like we're on what will be the penultimate lap. And up front, Chris Perini, fastest lap of this race, and another point for the championship. Now, just very roughly as things stand now, and Peter Clare's just going to destroy my mathematics because he's taken another position further forward in this race. Ultimately, we will see a tie potentially for Zig Furmeister in 4th with Stephen Champion. No, Stephen Champion dropped back to position 3. So it looks like the podium for this round will be, if he completes this lap, Chris Perini will take the win. Second will go to Zig Furmeister, who was second yesterday, of course, currently sitting in position number 4. And Stephen Champion will finish in position number 3 on points for this round. Of course, Chris Perini is leading the championship after a solid run at Bathurst.
So there is the checkered flag, and it goes to Chris Perini. A great weekend, and we're tipping that it's Costa Kurikov and Stephen Champion coming to the line soon after. But certainly, Sean, that is a fantastic podium result. A couple of newer podium getters there, Costa Kurikov and Stephen Champion. Kurikov, of course, been there before. Here comes the number 22 coming down to the line. Pretty lonely finish there after having so many battles right throughout that race. As gets to the line there, and here comes Stephen Champion to the line, and we're going down to pit lane as Chris Perini celebrates.